She was just trying to clear her head. But what she saw that day broke something inside her that hadn't felt anything in years. A dog, hanging from a tree, wounded and barely alive, with eyes that looked like they'd already given up. She didn't walk past. She didn't call for help. She went straight for the rope. Let me take you back to where it all began. Ava had left the house without meaning to. She hadn't planned on walking that far, but something about the way the snow looked that morning felt like it needed her to see something. She had seen pain before. She had seen men broken, lives lost, and children clinging to what was left after. But this wasn't just pain. It was personal, because the dog hanging there had on a harness that reminded her of a past she tried hard to forget. She moved faster than she thought her body could handle. The snow reached past her knees, but she didn't stop. The rope was thick. Someone tied it with care. That was what scared her. She pulled out the knife she always kept in her coat pocket. Her hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from something deeper, something old, something that never left. She cut him down carefully. The dog didn't resist. He didn't whimper. He just looked at her once, and it was enough. That look said thank you and help me and please don't go all at once. She wrapped him in her coat even though it left her freezing. She didn't care. She carried him back through the snow, step by step, each one heavier than the last. Back in the cabin, she laid him by the fire. His body was covered in scars. Some old, some new. Someone had done this to him. Not nature, not time, person. She cleaned his wounds, whispering to him like he was a child who needed comforting. You're okay now. You're safe here. Nobody's gonna hurt you again. She didn't believe her own words, but she needed to say them out loud. Maybe for him, maybe for herself. She found a name faintly stitched on the inside of his harness. Bear. Simple. Strong. Just like him. She looked at him as he slept and said, Bear, if you can stay, I'll stay too. She stayed beside him that night, not because she had to, but because something inside her didn't want to be anywhere else. The fire cracked softly, casting shadows on the wooden floor. Ava didn't sleep. She kept checking to make sure Bear was still breathing. Every rise of his chest made her feel something she couldn't name. It had been so long since she cared if anything lived or died. But now, she found herself whispering promises to a dog who couldn't answer. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to worry. The next morning came slowly. Bear tried to lift his head but failed. Ava was already there, sliding a bowl of water close to him. Don't rush, she said gently, kneeling down. You've done enough already. He looked at her, tired but present. It was the first time she realized how human his eyes were. She ran her fingers gently along his neck and paused when she felt something small under the fur. A bump. Metal. She leaned in closer. A tiny embedded chip. Military grade. The kind used on high-value canine units. Her heart dropped. She leaned back against the wall, her mind spinning. These dogs didn't just get lost. And nobody leaves one like that without a reason. What did they do to you? She whispered. Bear didn't answer, but his eyes said more than words could. By afternoon, the wind outside picked up. A storm was coming. Ava gathered wood and checked every window, every latch. She didn't like storms. Too many memories came with the sound of things breaking. She pulled Bear's blanket tighter around him and whispered, We're all right. We're not out there anymore. But part of her didn't believe it. She kept thinking about the way that rope had been tied. Neat, measured, deliberate. She hadn't told anyone where she moved. The cabin was deep in the woods, off-grid, away from people. That was the point. That was the plan. But Bear had changed that. He brought something with him. And not just memories. Someone had done this. Someone who knew how to hurt without leaving a mess. She found her old field notebook that evening. She hadn't opened it in years. Inside were scribbles, drawings, coordinates, small things she told herself she would one day forget. She sat on the floor beside Bear and opened a page that had no words. Just a small sketch of a paw print and the name Delta 4. Her hand shook. You were one of them, she said, almost to herself. They said that unit was lost. Bear shifted, letting out a low sound. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It was memory. Ava leaned her head back, eyes closed. Everything came back too fast. The mission, the smoke, the silence after the last shot. She didn't know what made her stand up just then, but she moved to the door, opened it. Snow still falling, heavy now, and their boot prints, fresh, leading toward the tree line. Not hers, not old. She didn't speak, just turned and locked the door. Then she looked at Bear. We're not alone. Ava didn't sleep that night. Not really. She sat with her back against the wall, her eyes on the door, one hand resting near Bear's shoulder. The storm outside howled louder than before, but it wasn't the weather keeping her awake. It was those boot prints. They didn't belong here. Nobody came this deep into the woods unless they meant to, and whoever it was had gotten close enough to see the cabin, but not close enough to knock. That meant they were watching, waiting, or worse, deciding. In the early hours, when the wind slowed, she finally stood and poured herself some coffee. The mug was chipped. It had belonged to her father. She stared into it for a while before whispering, "You'd know what to do." Bear stirred. He tried to sit up but winced and lay back down. Ava rushed to him, kneeling beside him. "Easy. You're okay. I've got you." She paused, her hand still on his side. His breathing was steady, slower now. Healing. Trusting. "You've done your part," she said quietly. "Let me handle the rest." That morning, she checked the trail again. The prints were still there, half buried now, but they led to the trees and stopped. No return trail, no sign of movement, just that someone had come and someone hadn't left. She went back inside and pulled the old chest from under her bed. Inside were photos, letters, and a small locked box. Took her a while to find the key. When she opened it, she found the one thing she never wanted to see again. Her discharge papers, stamped and folded, sitting beside a flash drive marked D4. She stared at it. "Why did I keep this?" she asked out loud. Bear didn't move. Ava turned the drive over in her hand. She hadn't plugged it in since the day she left. That day was the end of everything. Her commanding officer had called her brave. But she didn't feel brave when they took her weapon, cleared her locker, and put her on a bus alone. She plugged the drive into her old laptop. The screen blinked, then opened a folder with only one file. A video. No label. No date. Just 3 minutes and 41 seconds of footage. She hesitated, then hit play. The video was grainy. Dust covered the camera lens. The view shook as someone ran. Then a voice, hers. "Get him out. Now." Gunfire. Screaming. Flash. Then the camera turned and showed a dog leaping over a burning wall. Bear. He landed beside a soldier, dragged him out from under rubble, and disappeared into smoke. Ava sat still, her eyes wide, hand covering her mouth. She remembered now. She remembered watching that footage the day she left the base. And she remembered what happened after. They called it classified. They said she wasn't allowed to keep it. But someone had slipped the drive into her bag with a note that only said, "Keep it. You'll understand someday." She turned to Bear. He was watching her, head barely raised. She reached out and stroked his neck. "I remember now. I saw you save him. They left you behind. Just like me." Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Not loud. Just one knock. And silence. Ava didn't move. Bear let out a low growl, barely audible. But his eyes were locked on the door. The knock came again. One more time. Calm. Patient. She stood slowly, heart pounding, and reached for the handle. She didn't open it. Not yet. "Who is it?" she asked. No answer. She looked through the small peephole carved into the wood. A man stood outside, middle-aged, wearing a jacket with no patches. His face calm. Not friendly. Just blank. "We're looking for something," he said through the door. "A missing asset." Ava didn't answer. Her fingers gripped the handle tighter. "It's a dog," he added. "You might have seen him. He's not safe to keep." Ava stepped back from the door. "He's safe with me." The man didn't reply, just turned and walked back into the trees. She watched until he vanished between the pines. Her breath was shallow. her chest tight. Then she turned to Bear. They know. Ava double-locked the door, then dragged the old dresser across it, just in case. Bear watched her quietly, his ears twitching at the scraping wood. She knelt down beside him again, brushing his fur with slow hands. They found us. I don't know how, but they did. Bear blinked, slow and steady, like he trusted her even if he didn't understand every word. I won't give you back, she added. You hear me? I don't care who they are. You're not a thing. You're not an asset. You're Bear. Her voice cracked at the end. She wiped her face quickly, pretending it was just the heat from the fire. She stayed there on the floor for a long time, not speaking, just being, letting her hand rest over his heartbeat. It was strong, slower than before, but real, alive. Later that day, she opened the cabinet where she kept supplies she rarely touched. A few canned goods, an old medical kit, and a radio, not connected to anything official, but still powerful enough to scan nearby frequencies. She turned the dial slowly, listening for chatter, for signs, static, then a voice, male, brief, still no movement. Cabin looks untouched. Hold for command. Ava turned it off. Her heart raced. She sat back against the wall and closed her eyes. They weren't gone. They were waiting, watching. Bear let out a low breath, like he sensed her fear. She turned to him. We have to think. We don't have long. Then she remembered something. Place. Old Ranger's Post, about 5 miles east through the backwoods. Long abandoned, but it had shelter. Maybe even supplies. No roads. No cameras. No trails. She hadn't gone there in years. But it was a start. That night, she packed what she could. Some food. Water. Her old military knife. A flashlight. Bear's blanket. She wrapped it tight around his back and chest, patted where he still ached. We leave at first light, she whispered. You think you can walk? Bear didn't move, but his eyes stayed on her. She took that as a yes. Sleep didn't come. Every creak, every gust of wind. She flinched. She kept her boots on, coat nearby, ready to move. At dawn, she opened the back door quietly. The cold hit her lungs hard. She helped Bear up gently. He winced but stood. Slowly, carefully, step by step. They moved through the snow together, her arm around him when the path dipped. No words, just breath, just effort. They walked for hours. Ava didn't complain. Bear didn't stop. Every time he stumbled, he kept going. Like he knew this mattered. Like he trusted her enough to follow. When they reached the edge of the tree line, she paused. Looked back once. Smoke from the cabin barely rising through the trees. Her old life, her last safe place, gone. She turned back toward the woods. Come on, Bear, she said. Let's find a place they can't reach. The walk to the ranger station took longer than Ava expected. She hadn't been out that far in over 6 years. Every turn felt like a guess. But she trusted her feet, and Bear trusted her. She kept one hand near his harness, guiding him when the snow made the trail slippery. They stopped once under an old tree stump, where she gave him some water from her thermos and half a protein bar. He ate it without looking away from her. We're almost there, she said. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. The words helped. It was past noon when she spotted the station. A low, slanted roof buried under snow. The side panel broken from age. The door still standing. She helped Bear through it first. Inside it was musty and cold, but dry. Old ranger maps still hung on one wall. Cot, half-rotted, sat in the corner. Better than nothing, she said. She dropped her bag and set up a small space for Bear near the wall with the least draft. Bear collapsed gently onto the blanket and let out a deep breath. Ava sat beside him and leaned back, finally letting her shoulders fall. We did it, she whispered. We made it out. She didn't say what they made it out of. She didn't have to. For a while, she sat in silence, only the sound of Bear's breathing and the soft wind outside filling the room. Then she heard it. A soft noise. Not close. Not far. She stood slowly and stepped to the window. Through a crack in the wood, She saw movement down the ridge. 2 figures, distant, still, like they were deciding whether to come closer. Ava stepped back. Her hands shook, not from fear, from memory. She'd seen this before. Observers, not attackers. Not yet. She returned to Bear and knelt beside him. They followed us. I thought we had more time. She pulled her coat tighter and reached for her bag. Inside, she found the small flashlight and the map from the wall. She laid it out on the floor, pointing at a hidden trail to the north. There's a cave system here. If we keep moving, maybe we can lose them. Bear watched her, blinking slow. He was tired. She was too. But resting wasn't safe anymore. As she folded the map, a voice broke through the silence. Ava Miller. She froze. Not shouted. Not called. Just spoken. Like the person knew she'd hear it. She moved back to the window. A man stood outside, just at the tree line. Coat zipped, hands in his pockets. No weapon in sight, but his presence felt like one. I know you're in there, he said. We're not here to hurt you. We just want the dog. Ava didn't reply. She turned to Bear. His head was up, alert, waiting for her. She whispered, You're not just a dog. They don't send men like that for just a dog. Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out her old dog tags. She stared at them. Her voice was soft. I swore I'd never go back. But maybe I never really left. Outside, the man waited. Calm. Still. Inside, Ava stood and faced the door. If you want him, she said under her breath, you'll have to go through me. Minutes passed. The man didn't move. He stood there like time didn't matter, like he already knew how this would end. Ava paced once across the room, then stopped at the small broken table and slid her pack underneath. She didn't want to fight, but she would. Her eyes landed on Bear. He hadn't looked away, as if waiting for her to decide what they were now, running or standing. She reached for the blanket covering him and adjusted it gently. I'm not going to let them take you. Not now. Not after all this. There was a sound then. Not a knock. Not a word. A thud outside the wall. Then another. Slow. Purposeful. She moved to the back window and peeked through a crack. 2 more figures. Coming from the other side. They were surrounding the station. She backed away from the window and looked around. No back door. No crawl space. Just one way in, one way out. Her heart was racing now, but her hands were steady. She took the flashlight and tapped twice on the floor beside Bear. He stirred. He sat up. Slowly. Painfully. But he stood. Good boy, she said. Her voice soft, but full of something that felt like courage. Then the front door creaked. Not open. Just enough to break the silence. She stepped forward. Just one step. Don't come in here, she said clearly. I won't let you take him. A new voice came this time. Female. Calm. Cold. You have no idea what you're protecting. Ava's voice rose, sharper now. I'm protecting someone who saved lives. Someone who's been hurt enough. He's not your responsibility, the woman said. He was trained for something bigger. Something you wouldn't understand. Then explain it, Ava snapped. Come inside and say it to my face. Silence followed. Then the door closed again. Heavy boots moved away from the porch. She waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then a different sound, a crack. Wood. Back wall. They were trying to break in from the side. She rushed to Bear. Helped him up again. Grabbed her pack. We have to go. Now. She pulled the loose board near the cot, revealing a dark crawl space that led under the station floor. It was narrow, barely enough room for both of them. She pushed the bag through first, then Bear. He hesitated. She nudged him gently. Go. Please. He slipped in, silent, trusting her again. She followed, just as the sound of boots hit the floor above. Someone was inside, searching. Ava held her breath. She could hear them overhead, one step at a time, right above where she and Bear lay in the dark. She reached out, rested her hand on Bear's back, and whispered the only words she could think of. Stay with me, no matter what. The floorboards creaked. The footsteps stopped. Then a loud bang. Then silence. And then a voice. Not above them, but behind. Near the crawl space exit. I said she'd run, the voice said. She always does. Ava's blood ran cold. That voice. It wasn't one of the soldiers. It was someone else. Someone she knew. Someone she left behind. She didn't turn around at first. Her hand stayed on Bear's back. Her other hand slid slowly toward her side, feeling for the knife tucked into her belt. The voice behind her had cut through the cold more sharply than any wind could. It wasn't a soldier. It wasn't a stranger. It was someone she had once trusted. You're supposed to be dead, she said, not loud, not scared, just stunned. The man moved a little closer. She could hear his breath now. Steady, calm. I was. Almost. You left me there. Ava. She turned slowly, her eyes adjusting to the dim light at the end of the crawl space. And there he was, Logan Hayes, her old unit's handler, the one who worked directly with Bear's team, the one they said never made it out. He looked older, thinner, like the years had been cruel, but his eyes still held that sharp focus she remembered from every mission. Ava stared at him. They told me you didn't make it. They told me you walked away and didn't look back, he replied. His voice wasn't angry, just tired. Bear shifted beside her. His body went tense. Low growl in his chest. But Ava placed a hand gently on his side. It's okay. Stay down. Logan knelt near the edge of the crawl space. They're not here for you. They're here because he has something inside him they need back. Data. Codes. Testing logs. He's not a hard drive, she snapped. He's alive. He's hurt. And he's not going back there. I'm not here to take him, Logan said. I'm here to help you keep him alive. Because the people chasing you now, they're not playing by the old rules. Ava didn't respond. She didn't trust him. Not yet. He reached into his coat slowly and placed something on the ground. A photograph. Worn. Folded. She reached for it carefully. It showed her, Bear, and Logan, years ago, before everything. They wiped us out, he said. All of us. The dogs. The handlers. Anyone who knew about Project Sentinel. Bear is the last one left. Ava's stomach turned. She remembered that name. Project Sentinel. The program they were told never existed. Why now? She asked. Why show up now? Because the team they sent after you won't stop. And I'm the only one left who knows how to disable what's inside him. Ava stared at him for a long time. Then she reached down and helped Bear crawl toward the other side. She followed. Slowly. Carefully. When she stepped out, Logan backed away to give them space. Bear stayed close to her leg. I still don't trust you, Ava said. You shouldn't, Logan answered. But you'll need me before this is over. Ava looked down at Bear, then back at the tree line. We need to move again. They'll search this place top to bottom. I have a safe spot. Off-grid. 2 miles west. They won't find us there. Ava hesitated, then gave a small nod. Then let's go. As they disappeared into the forest, the wind picked up behind them. And for the first time since she found Bear, Ava didn't feel completely alone. But she knew better than to believe they were safe. Not yet. Not even close. The woods felt different now. Not silent. Just watched. Ava kept one hand near her sidearm and the other on Bear's shoulder when he stumbled. Logan led the way, saying little, glancing back every few steps to check on them. 2 miles, he'd said, but it felt longer. The snow was heavier here. Branches bent low, trails half gone. How much does Bear remember? Ava asked quietly as they passed a frozen creek. Logan didn't stop. Enough. Maybe too much. They used the dogs to store classified ops. Biological encryption. The memory is tied to trauma. That's why they want him alive. Ava stared at the back of Logan's head. So they can re-trigger it? Or extract it? But both could kill him. Bear stumbled again. Ava helped him up, whispering soft words until he steadied. She wasn't sure if he understood all of it. But he listened. That was enough. They reached a ridge just before dusk. Logan paused and pointed to a small rock face nearly hidden by trees. There, behind that split in the stone. Go left, not right. Ava guided Bear as carefully as she could, heart thudding as the last light faded. The entrance was narrow, hidden, just a sliver in the rocks. Inside, it opened into a small, dry space. Old gear, crates, a radio, shelving. Someone had lived here once or planned to. Logan lit a small oil lamp. The glow cast long shadows on the walls. We can stay here tonight. No one will track this far without leaving signs. Ava helped Bear onto a foam mat near the corner. He curled up slowly, still breathing hard, but no longer shaking. She sat beside him, resting her hand against his neck. Logan crouched nearby. They'll send drones next, then dogs. After that, well, it won't be a negotiation. I thought you were dead, Ava said again, softer this time. You were one of the good ones. And then, nothing. Logan leaned back against the stone wall, his eyes tired. I got left behind. You made it out. I didn't blame you, but they didn't want survivors. Why save me now? She asked. He looked at Bear, then back at her. Because he's more than what they made him. And you're the only one who still sees that. Ava didn't reply. She sat in silence, her hands still on Bear's fur. Warm, alive, and full of secrets none of them fully understood. Outside, the wind howled again. Somewhere, far behind, a distant sound cracked through the trees. A noise no natural thing could make. Logan stood slowly. They've found our trail. Ava stood quickly and turned down the oil lamp, letting the room fall into shadow. We won't outrun them this time, she said quietly. Not with Bear like this. Logan nodded once, already reaching for a rusted metal case under one of the crates. Inside was an old comms jammer. This will block short-range tracking, but only for a while. If they brought heat sensors or sent drones, we're out of luck. Ava looked down at Bear. He was awake now, watching them, trying to rise again. She knelt and stroked his head. No, stay. You've done enough. If we split, Logan said, you could take him deeper through the caves. I'll draw them off. Ava shook her head immediately. Not happening. I don't leave people behind anymore. You might have to, Logan said. We have one shot to make this count. The noise outside came again. Closer. Something moving fast between the trees. Not human fast. Ava grabbed her bag and unzipped the side, pulling out her sidearm. She checked the mag full. We'll use the back tunnel, Logan said. He kicked open a hidden panel behind the crates. Cold air rushed in. A narrow tunnel, carved through old rock, barely visible without the lamp. Bear stood slowly. He limped forward, but he didn't hesitate. Ava moved beside him, shoulder to shoulder, as they entered the tunnel. Logan followed last, closing the panel behind them. Inside it was narrow, damp, their footsteps muffled. The sound of pursuit faded behind them, but only slightly. Half a mile in, they reached a split. 2 paths. Logan paused. Left leads to an old ranger road. Exposed, but faster. Right goes deeper underground. Slower. Safer. Ava looked down at Bear. He was breathing hard. Struggling. She met Logan's eyes. You take left. If they spot anyone, it'll be you. I'll take him down right. You sure? Logan asked. If I don't make it. Don't say it. Ava interrupted. Just do what you can. They nodded. Brief. No time for anything else. Then they split. Ava and Bear turning into the shadows of the right path. She didn't speak as they walked. Only the sound of water dripping somewhere above. The walls pressed close. The air grew colder. She could feel Bear weakening. His pace slower. His breathing shallower. She stopped finally. Dropped to her knees. Pulled him close. I need you to stay with me. Okay? You made it this far. You saved me. Don't stop now. Bear looked up at her. Eyes glassy, but aware. She wiped snow from his coat and whispered, You're not just a mission. You're mine now. You hear me? Behind them, the echo of footsteps returned. Not Logan. He wouldn't make noise. She pressed her back to the tunnel wall. raised the pistol, waited. The shape came through the darkness, slow, broad-shouldered, and then the flashlight hit her eyes, blinding. A voice called out, "Drop the weapon. Hands where we can see them." Ava stood, didn't drop the gun, didn't blink. "Not unless you do first." The flashlight didn't move. Ava held her breath and kept her weapon raised. She could feel Bear trembling behind her, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He'd gone too far for too long. "I said drop it." The voice came again, steady, too steady. "You fire a shot and what you're after dies with us," Ava said. "You won't get another chance." A second flashlight joined the first. 2 men, maybe more out of sight, but they didn't move forward. They were waiting. She could feel it. Then the second voice spoke. Young, tight, nervous. "He's carrying intel from Sentinel. Deep code fragments. He's not just a dog. He's property." Ava's jaw tightened. "He's not property." He bled. He broke. He remembers. Silence. "He's dangerous," the first man said. "If that data goes public." "You mean if the truth goes public?" Ava cut in. "You trained him to protect your secrets. He protected people instead. That's what scares you." Still no movement. She glanced down at Bear. He was sitting now, sides heaving but alert, staring into the lights, unafraid. "You pull that trigger," Ava said. "You won't just kill a dog. You'll prove everything we're about to expose." Then she heard something. Behind her, soft crunching in the snow. A shape emerging from the shadows of the tunnel. Logan. He didn't raise a gun. He raised a small device. "I have the uplink," he said. His voice was quiet. "Warn. One signal. And every file in this dog's memory gets broadcasted to every channel that matters." The flashlight wavered. "You won't make it out alive," the young one said. It wasn't a threat. It was fear. Ava stepped forward. "Neither will you. You want to be the face of this when it breaks." Stillness. The flashlights didn't move. Then slowly one beam lowered. Then the other. They weren't here to die. Not for this. Footsteps backed away. No more words. Just retreat. Logan exhaled. "They're not done. They're just thinking." "Let them," Ava said. She dropped to her knees beside Bear, pressing her forehead to his. "It's over." Bear leaned into her hand. The next day they were deep in the mountains. Logan found an old Ranger relay, the kind the system forgot. He plugged the device into the terminal, took a breath and said, "Ready." Ava nodded. He pressed send. There was no fanfare, just a blinking light. Uploading. Then complete. The files, videos, voice logs, training archives, Project Sentinel's hidden past, went public. Not through a leak. Through the hands of the people who survived it. Later, Ava sat on the porch of a worn-down cabin far from everything. Bear's head rested on her lap. He wasn't breathing fast anymore. Just soft. Still. Safe. Logan stood a few feet away, radio in hand, listening to the world react. "They're not denying it. They can't," Ava whispered. She looked down at Bear, ran her fingers through his fur. "You did it," she said. "They tried to break you, and you still chose to protect." His ear flicked, eyes half open. "You're free now," she said. "Not a weapon, not a file, just mine." The wind moved gently through the trees. For the first time, they weren't running. They were home. Thank you to my amazing family for staying with me until the end of this story. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed this journey, I just know you'll love what comes next. I've prepared something even more exciting and surprising that I can't wait to share with you. Just click on the end card appearing on your screen right now to watch the next one.